Chapter 2. Expendable Profession. Leonel's depressed mood didn't last for long. Soon he was smiling as though nothing had happened. At that moment, an arm wrapped around his shoulders. Considering how easily the culprit had done so, it was obvious that he was even taller than Leonel. Another failure. How many is that already? 520? 521. Leonel muttered. Almost every school day since first year, huh? The culprit laughed, leading Leonel up the stairs. There are too many young noble women looking to get into the good books of the 3021st bachelor of the eligible minor list, yet you've been solely focused on one girl for 4 years. Think of all the hearts breaking across the world. Leonel laughed. James, when you have to say such a large number, it makes the accomplished ring hollow, don't you think? It was quite funny. It was nice to be ranked, but being told that there were 3,020 men better than him didn't exactly have a nice ring to it. Plus, this was just the eligible minor list. Once he turned 18, he might not rank on the true eligible bachelor list at all. More depressing than that was the fact there were several snotty-nosed brats no more than 13 or 14 years old ranked ahead of him. Forget that damned list. James spat. Who knows what perverted grandma ranked a bunch of minors on their eligibility? Load of nonsense. Must be nice looking down from on high like that, Mr. 1034th. James laughed pervertedly, shaking Leonel side to side with his arm. Scanning. Security procedures underway. Student Leonel Morales recognized. Welcome, future 5-star quarterback. Leonel heard the usual mechanical voice ringing in his ears. Though he knew no one else could hear it, he still felt a deep disgust whenever he heard this introduction. Think about it this way, James continued as they entered the grand hallways of Royal Blue Academy. There are over 3 billion people on Earth who are under 18. Half of those are men like us. Yet we're in the top percent of a percent of a percent of them. You gotta stop chasing after this one girl. There are too many who want you. As long as she rejects me, I will leave her alone. But in 4 years, she's never said a word after one of my confessions. She always just runs off. Leonel swiped his finger under his nose a few times. It's obvious she likes me. James was stunned for a moment before bursting into another fit of laughter. It seemed the students were used to his boisterousness because no one batted an eye to his ridiculous laugh. I don't know why I waste my words. I know you don't care about these surface things. I should have known nothing would affect your state of mind for the big game. James pulled his arm from Leonel's shoulder, pounding a fist to the latter's chest. Those preppy boys can just wait patiently for their 4th national championship loss in a row. Leonel grinned, pounding James' chest in return. Leonel caught a bit of a complex light in his best friend's gaze. James was easily 3 inches taller than him and had been his partner in crime ever since they entered Royal Blue Junior Academy together. Leonel would never miss something like this. He knew him too well. I do have something to talk to you about. James' voice was cut off by the ring. Damn it, there's a test today. Leonel shook his head as James ran away like a madman, likely trying to find someone he could cheat off of. Without thinking much, he pulled out a binder from his backpack to cram for his own test while he walked to class. Unfortunately, he and James weren't in the same class. While Leonel ranked 3rd academically across all subjects, James was near the bottom of the barrel. If it wasn't for the fact his gene analysis decided that his fateful career was that of a 5-star tight end, he wouldn't be allowed to enter this building at all. Royal Blue Academy took these separations very seriously. Due to this, it was already a miracle that Leonel could make it into Senior Class A to begin with. When Leonel was young, like every other child at the age of 3, he took a mandatory genetic analysis examination. Among other things, this test was meant to decide your optimal career path while weighing your benefit to society. This career path would be graded from 1 to 5 stars, depending on several factors. Ultimately, a 1-star professional was average. This person wouldn't cause any waves in their career path, but they would be able to stabilize its foundation, allowing the innovators at higher star evaluations to drive progress. 5-star professionals were on another level. These were people that would revolutionize their fields. In a single generation, there wouldn't be more than 100 children with this level of evaluation, and not every profession was guaranteed to birth one either. It should have been great that Leonel had such an evaluation. He, too, was a 5-star professional. The trouble was that he had no interest in joining the National American Football League and becoming a Hall of Fame quarterback. People like him were categorized as entertainers, He would be rich and live a great life, but he would never be taken seriously outside of his sport. This was part of the reason he was ranked so lowly on the eligible minor list. Many ranked above him were only worth 3 stars to their professions, but they were still more valued. Of course, this wasn't the full reason, or else James wouldn't be ranked so much higher than he was since he too was an entertainer. Lionel walked into class just on time. He smiled lightly to greet a few people before burying his head back into his binder of notes. Though many liked to socialize with Lionel, they could only shake their heads when they noticed their school's star quarterback cramming as he usually did. His personality was really too odd. He had just been confessing his undying love to Aina, yet now he sat right behind her in class as though he didn't know who she was. At the same time, the shy Aina who blushed whenever she saw Lionel on the steps hardly reacted to his entry into the class either. Could this fated couple be bipolar? Since those in senior class didn't even total 20, they could be considered quite close-knit. They had become quite invested in the Lionel-Aina romance. Unfortunately, the two gave them no food for the soul in class. "All right, all books away. The test will start now." The seemingly normal desk surfaces flickered and became screens. They were designed to block light projection in every direction but the test-taker's own perspective. So, cheating was effectively impossible. Lionel's amiable gaze completely vanished. It was like he entered a battlefield as the class was filled with his suffocating presence. By now, the others of Senior Class A had become used to it. After all, they had journeyed up with Lionel from Freshman Class A, but it would be a lie to say they didn't still break out into a cold sweat every time. It was just a test. Was there a need to take it so seriously? They really couldn't understand how Lionel was evaluated as a 5-star quarterback instead of a 5-star general. Even if he was evaluated as a 4-star general like his father, it would have been a much better use of his talents. As usual, Lionel finished with blazing speed, only taking half an hour to complete a 2-hour test. Without a choice, he pushed up from his desk, grabbing his bag and slinging it over his shoulder. The rest of the class breathed a sigh of relief. Now they could start taking the test on their own. "Sorry, Teach. I gotta go." "Don't worry about it, Leo." Ms. Dean, an amiable lady getting on in years, smiled lightly. She was quite fond of this young one. "I know you athletes have a lot on your plate. Go on now." Lionel was about to jog out of the classroom door when he suddenly thought of something and paused. He looked up to the ceiling and muttered something as though he was gathering strength. With a grit of his teeth, he turned back. With purposeful steps, he made his way back to Aina, who was still focusing on her exam. His finger tapped the metallic watch on her small wrist before she could react. There was a light glow that signaled from his watch to hers. She sat in a daze for a moment before she looked up and realized it was Lionel. For a moment, she didn't know how to react. "I know you probably won't go, but I thought I would try anyway." Lionel smiled lightly. His disarming smile seemed to warm the air. "We can celebrate our win tonight together." Without another word to Aina, Lionel turned and jogged away. Pressing his hands in apology to Miss Dean for his disruption, he left with an embarrassed smile. Lionel sprinted out of the building, hopping onto his bike to cut across campus with blazing speed. Unfortunately, this was the true reason he could only rank 3rd. He never had the time to listen to lectures. With the Information Restriction Act of 2072, knowledge was restricted the further away from the surface world you were. The government's reasoning was that policing floating paradises was difficult, especially the poorest regions that existed the highest in the sky. So, it was impossible to monitor how this sensitive knowledge was being used. Therefore, the government concluded that it should be restricted. However, when had the reasons governments gave for doing things ever not been bullshit? Even the official reason they gave was so terrible. In the end, the only time Lionel had to study was the time he spent on the surface world. Otherwise, this oh-so-useful watch on his wristwatch would censor his textbooks. Still, this wasn't the worst of what Lionel had to deal with. In order to enter one of the top 3 academies' main campuses, there were extremely strict requirements. One had to be a 3-star professional in what were known as the essential professions, things like engineers or surgeons, or a 4-star professional in an auxiliary profession, careers such as lawyers or businessmen. If one wanted to enter the main campus with an expendable profession like Lionel's, 5-star was the minimum. Wow, did all this mean? It meant that Lionel was only allowed to enter the same building as Aina based on his credentials as a star quarterback. He had no choice but to follow the athlete recruit's curriculum, which was obviously not academically centered. James's so-called test this morning was only for the basic knowledge every adult should have. Over 80% of his workload was actually evaluated at Royal Blue Academy's state-of-the-art athletic facilities. The logic was sound. Since his career path had already been decided as a muscle-brained jock, what did he need physics, maths, and literature for? Lionel sped into a massive glass-panned, oval-shaped arena. After entering the locker room, he was greeted by the moans of dozens of grown men. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he sighed like a disappointed parent. "Captain! You're all too embarrassing. I don't want to be your captain anymore." "Don't be like that, Cap. These 4-star masseuses have the hands of angels." "Come on, Cap, you gotta try this. They only hire these goddesses for the national championship game. If you don't take advantage now, you'll have to wait until you get drafted by the naval." "Well, since you're all so sincerely begging me." Soon Lionel's own moans filled the locker room. An eruption of boisterous laughter shook the arena's walls. It didn't seem that the biggest game of the year was just a few hours away at all. And why would it? Lionel had led them to victory 3 times before already. This year would be no different. Chapter 3. The Game. Good evening, gentlemen. I hope we can have a good game today. Everyone knows the stakes, so play free and play safe. Stay within the rules, as we don't have to have a problem. The crowd was deafening. The thumping of feet, the boisterous chants, the heated anticipation boiled in the air, shaking the very stadium they stood within. The Royal Blue Academy's Royal Stadium sat within a massive glass structure formed of curved triangular panels. It danced with the setting sun beautifully, capturing dark reds and oranges that played across its reflective surfaces. The green, white-striped football fields were completely empty with the exception of 11 men who stood on the 50-yard line facing one another. Clicking and flashing cameras sounded, trying to capture every moment. Lionel stood proudly, 2 of his teammates to either of his sides. He calmly smiled at the arrogant sneers of his long-time opponents from Angel Wing Academy, his helmet tucked under his arm. His football pads and jersey fit on like a knight's armor, glistening a beautiful deep blue. The only exception was the number on his chest, which stood out as a bright white. The number 3. "Here's the coin we will be flipping today." The head referee continued to speak, stretching out a beautifully designed coin that was about half the width of his palm. "On one side, we have a football decorated with the flag of the fallen American Empire. This will be tails. On this side, we have the Paradise Palace. It will be heads." This coin was designed by a 4-star metal worker. It was given the name Uniting. It represents our Ascension Empire's ability to ingratiate all of its past conquests, leaving a place for all. The head referee allowed the 10 players to see both sides. "Are you prepared to lose?" A gaze filled with confidence bore down on Lionel. The culprit was a young man with long, flowing blonde hair. His white jersey was almost blinding under the lights, making one have to squint just to maintain eye contact. This young man was a 4-star quarterback prospect, Conrad Siegfried. "The result will be just the same as it's always been," Lionel replied faintly. "You know the drill. Royal Blue, you're the home team. Call it in the air." The head referee tossed the coin into the air. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. The piercing gazes of 2 young men met across space, a spinning coin falling slowly between them. Tails. The coin landed with a soft thud on the grass below. "The result is tails. Royal Blue, would you like to receive or kick?" Lionel grinned as though the answer was obvious. "We receive." "Angel Wing, pick the direction you'd like to kick off from." Conrad casually pointed. He hadn't let Lionel's comments bother him. If it wasn't for Lionel's birth, it would be him who would be the best of this generation. Others would let this fact crush them, but it filled Conrad with a burning desire to win by any means. Lionel turned, heading back to the sidelines. He grabbed his helmet's face mask, sliding it onto his head like a knight's helm. In that moment, his aura completely changed. A violent pressure suffocated the royal blue sidelines as almost 100 pairs of gazes landed on Lionel's dark, tinted visor. Soon, the entire stadium fell into an eerie quiet as Lionel met each one of their gazes head-on. "Respect the game. Persist to the end," was all Lionel said. "Respect the game. Persist to the end." Royal Blue repeated these words as one. The crowd joined in, a torrent of momentum climbing to infinity. A rush of emotion filled the air, a wild cheering shaking the very ground once more. Let's go. And here we go again. The fourth year and the fourth national championship appearance for five-star quarterback Leo Morales and his Royal Blues. Will it be another victory, or will the star quarterback end his tenure with the only blemish on his resume? Gee, I think we all know the answer to that, Phil. In case you've all forgotten, let me remind you. This is the greatest quarterback prospect to ever be birthed. This young man was throwing darts in his diapers. He could sleepwalk through this game and still win by 30-ish. Don't think we don't know what you're doing, Rick. You're just hoping your Los Angeles sewer rats trade up to pick him in the 2198 draft. Well, let me break it to you. We have the #1 overall pick this year. The entertaining commentary of the Phil-Rick duo was in full swing. The liveliness was intoxicating. And here it is, the kickoff of the 119th National Championship game. Angel Wing's kicker did a light jog up before unleashing a booming kick that soared through the air, landing out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. With that, the game had truly begun. Here we go, the first play, yo. It seems that Coach Owen is really letting Morales have full reign now. Immediately entering a 5-wide set, not even using a running back. Ha! Morales is all the running back they need. Lionel shifted his gaze from left to right, checking the defense. He could see the vicious gazes of the Angel Wing defensive line. Their middle linebacker's gaze locked onto Lionel's. He was a 4-star professional in his junior year. Unfortunately, much like his quarterback, he had been played to death by Lionel for the last 2 years. His eyes swiftly met James as though in tacit agreement. Blue 80. Blue 80. Sad. Hut? Lionel clapped his hands, his legs slowly raising and setting into position as he accepted the snapped ball. He glided backward effortlessly. His back leg had hardly planted before he cocked his arm back and released a laser. A corner blitz. Morales didn't check the play. He actually threw it directly over the corner's head. James dropped the ball. That could have been a 20-yard gain. How unlike him. Hey! The loud blowing of a whistle sounded. Unnecessary roughness. Roughing the passer. Number 21, 15-yard penalty, first down. Lionel felt that the wind had been knocked out of him. Having opened up his chest to throw the ball, he had been completely blindsided by the blitzing corner. Of course, he had known it was coming, but he couldn't throw and dodge at the same time. Gonna be a long night, pretty boy. Number 21 grinned down at Lionel just as another whistle blew. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 21, 15-yard penalty, first down. The corner raised his hands in mock defeat, swaggering back to his side of the field. You good, Cap? One of Lionel's offensive linemen helped him up. No problem, Lionel said with a cold smile. The team huddled in. Sorry, Leo, you took a hit for no reason. James's gaze was filled with shame. Don't worry about it, it happens. Leo hit his shoulder pads. Head up. Didn't we just gain a free 30 yards anyway? Since they want to play games, let's play games. The play goes, trips right, red under seam, wide out bang. On two, break! The huddle broke, leaving Lionel to jog to the line. He paused in shotgun, waiting for his team to get set. Usually he would scan the defense, but this time, his head turned to the right, his gaze piercing toward just one side of the field. He raised a finger pointing at number 21, Dare. He had never seen this player before, so he must have been a freshman. Considering his cockiness, he was most definitely at least a 4-star recruit. It seemed Lionel would have to teach him to be more obedient. Oh, he's done it now. Blue 21, down set, hut. The whistle blew. Offside. Number 21, 5-yard penalty, first down. He's toying with the rookie now. You think the little guy thought Lionel would just try to force the ball toward his side of the field? He's too naive. Football is a game of the mind. Excellent use of the hard count to deal with an over-aggressive rusher. What is Angel Wing thinking, sending a corner blitz twice in a row? From now on, Morales is in control. And in control, he was. The first drive was no less than a masterclass in timing, accuracy, and precision. In just 12 plays and 7:36 minutes, the Royal Blues found the end zone. Even with his star tight end having 2 dropped passes, Morales finds pay dirt, stacking 1 touchdown to the stat sheet. The game became a back-and-forth affair. Though Royal Blue had Lionel and James, not only did James seem to be having a bad game, but Angel Wing had far more 4-star recruits than they did. Aside from the dynamic duo, Royal Blue was mostly constructed of 3-star prospects. After all, they were only ranked 3rd the academies while Angel Wing was ranked 2nd. However, Lionel pulled the team from the depths of despair time and time again. What a bullet over the middle! Morales is really carrying the load of the offense, but he's taken a lot of hits this game. You have to wonder if it's worth it. He has nothing left to prove at this level of football. That's just part of his charm. Would he really be Lionel Morales if he pulled himself out of this game? Time ticked and the 4th quarter came around. A score of 35-31 in favor of the Angel Wings hanging on the scoreboard. What the hell are you doing out there, Bennett? Coach Owen grabbed James's chest pads, fury billowing through his thick mustache. You choose the biggest game of the year to shit the bed. James's head hung low. I get it. Coach Owen took a step back. You've already won 3 times. This game is probably meaningless to you already. But think of your juniors. This may very well be their only opportunity in their lifetimes. Coach, that's... James wanted to defend himself, his gaze flickering with a complex light. He simply couldn't find the courage to do so. He already had 5 dropped passes this game alone. That may be as many as his whole academy career from the start to now. He really was playing out of character. Lionel came over with a smile. In truth, if one ignored the happy expression on his face, it would be easy to see the kind of sorry state he was in. He had already been forced to tape up his ribs at halftime after yet another late hit. Come on, coach. You know he'll step up when it really counts. If we didn't keep this game a bit close, wouldn't the crowd be too bored? The sound of a whistle came from the field. The Angel Wings kicked off, leaving the ball in their possession for a final drive, 1:15 sitting on the clock. Isn't this what we live for? Lionel's grin sent a wave of calm through the sidelines. Let's go win this. Lionel slid on his helmet. Like a general leading his army, he stepped out onto the field, his mind incomparably focused. And here we go. Scoot up to the edge of your seats, everyone. This is the final drive to decide it all. A nice and easy run on 1st down. It's clear the Royal Blues are taking their time, settling the pace, looking to end it on their own terms. Excellent timing on that out route. 87's been a key piece with Bennett's down game. He may only be a 3-star prospect, but he stepped up big today. 0:47 on the clock, and the Royal Blues are already at midfield. Morales has them running like a finely tuned engine. Oh no! 56 whiffs on a block, letting a rusher free. Morales spins out of the tackle, rushing to his right. A work of art, nothing less. A slight flick of the wrist to send the flying 40 yards right between the numbers. 87 tiptoes out of bounds at the opponent's 6. 0:03 on the clock, my blood is boiling. Can they do it? Can they seal their dynasty with a victory? This is it, boys. Leave it all out there. Respect the game. Persist to the end. Lionel's gaze blazed. All right, Z personnel, he boot swing over, motion zig fade. On one. Break! Lionel walked to the line, his heart as calm as a lake. The blaring cheers of the rocking stadium, the countless flashing cameras, the sea of white uniformed enemies glaring at him like a piece of meat. It all rolled off his shoulders as though they weren't there at all. With a light smile, Lionel turned his head to the right of the field, his arm slowly raising to point at a familiar freshman. It can't be. Morales is doing it again. Ah-ha-ha! This is the spirit of the game, to call out your opponent on the final play. What guts, what imposing grandeur. Blue 21. Blue 21. Down set. Hut! The ball spiraled through the Royal Blues center's legs, hitting Lionel's palms perfectly. It's a designed boot to the right. The Royal Blues really are targeting the rookie this time. The rookie slipped up. He thought Morales was going to hit him with the hard count again and got caught flat-footed. There goes Bennett, sliding past him for the corner fade. Morales sees him. This is it. Bennett is wide open. Lionel rolled to the side, the football between both his hands. The Royal Blues hadn't run a single designed boot all game. The defense was caught completely off guard. By the time they realized what was happening, Lionel was practically alone on the right side of the field. The only others with him were the rookie, 21, and James, who had faded to the corner of the end zone. The rookie was caught in no man's land. He had no idea whether he should rush after James or if he should try to get a hit in on Lionel, ending the game. In the end, he rushed forward. He knew it was already too late to catch up to James, but maybe he had a chance at Lionel, who was rushing toward him. Unfortunately, Lionel smirked. With a flick of his wrist, the ball soared over 21's head, landing right in James's hands. Morales does it again. Royal Blues, wah. The deafening crowd fell into an eerie silence as the ball slipped through James's hands, and the clock hit 000.